president. Steve's hiding there, but he's our current president, Steve Teasman, and he's Mr. Governor Higgins' mansion. You want to say anything about the? Okay. At any rate, he's been working hard to get Governor Higgins' mansion open. A couple little ads before we begin, just because I love doing this stuff. They had anybody aware of the knife show that's up in Little Valley? You know, Case used to have a knife show, and now they have a couple Case descendants put together a great show. They had it a couple weekends ago, and dealers come from all over the place. But they have a horse and buggy ride around Little Valley, and they talk about all the Case homes and the history of K-Bar that ended up in Olean, and all the knife companies that started up there and then spun out and around. And that's always a good event, and if you ever get a chance, maybe next summer up at the fairgrounds, it's a 2-day thing and it's a lot of fun. Last weekend, anybody aware of the name Mark Dunkelman and the Civil War reunion that he has every year? We had a Civil War club down at St. Bonaventure University ran for 10, 15 years. And we had a lot of good speakers and collectors and descendants. And we were friends with Mark Dunkelman, who currently lives in Providence, Rhode Island, but he grew up in Buffalo, and he had a Civil War relative, great-great-grandfather, who was a German farmer up in Ellicottville. And he was trained at the Rhode Island School of Art and Design, and he ended up painting a big mural down in Gettysburg that everybody likes to see. So he's a well-trained artist, but he's also written half a dozen books on the unit that were national bestsellers over the years. And he just had a 40th reunion in St. Bonaventure and donated his lifelong collection about all the local soldiers. And wonderful, wonderful stuff. And the Cattaraugus County Museum, Brian McClellan, and the fellow that was the producer, that I forgot his name, but there's a film that's going to be out online. I don't know if it's going to be YouTube or whatever, but it's on the 154th New York, and they had the debut, maybe the national debut, last Saturday down at Bonna's in the Quick Theater. And I don't know how many more years he's going to have reunions, and I'm going to just pass this flyer along. It talks about the event, and Mark talks about donating his collection, and then there's a little page from Tom Stetson Allegheny that's trying to save the Civil War building in Little Valley. He's president of CAMP, and so he has an attached letter here. So I'll give it to you. Maybe you just pass it around, just glance at it. It's a wonderful event. And he claims he's going to have a reunion next year, but you can go even if you're not a descendant. It's a wonderful, wonderful event. A couple other ads, and I have no skin in the game in either one of these, but I've been to both, and they're wonderful. There is August 1st in Mayville over at Chautauqua Suites Hotel, between Chautauqua and Mayville there. There's a wonderful show. It's been around probably 30, 35 years. It started in Westfield, but now it's over at the hotel. But if you like local or regional history, Native American, pioneer history, transportation history, industrial history, war history. Anyway, all the book dealers and local collectors and dealers from the East go there. It's a wonderful, wonderful event. And if you like local history, you like postcards, stereo views, old books, photography, illustrated books, prints, comic books, maps, historic documents, children's books, magazines, local history, trade cards, sheet music, Americana, ephemera, and collectibles, and more. It's a wonderful, wonderful one-day event. So that's August 1st, which I think is a Saturday. And I'll pass that around just so you can look at the details. And then there's a third annual the next day. It's just coincidental. Also in Mayville, over at the old City Hall. It's a history expo, and it's Chautauqua and Cattaraugus County Historical Societies set up tables, and they all have stuff for sale, and they all have different displays, and they have genealogists there if you want to find your family, that kind of stuff. And that's a wonderful event, and that's only the third annual, and it's totally different from the other one, but this also has a lot of things to look at and for sale, a lot of good people. In fact, I ended up spending time with a woman who was daughters of the soldiers of Western New York, soldiers of 1812, War of 1812.
Oh, wow.
So that's a right. You can go down any rat hole you want, but it's all fun, and that's included in this little handout. So I'll start this one. Lana had it anyway, but pass that around. Take a look. And you can go to either or both of those. Those are wonderful. I think I might need to do an overnight. So we get to our featured guests and speakers tonight. We're very pleased to have Dana and Kay Klein, whom I've known for years. Wonderful people. She, among other things, she holds court with June Ronalder, formerly from Olean, an antique shop in Angelica. Dana does everything Native American or whatever. I'm going to let him tell you everything, and I put his ad on the front. This is the annual Stone Tool Craftsman Show 2026. It's a wonderful event, 3 days in Letchworth, and they helped organize it, and they're still involved, and it's a wonderful, wonderful event. And so they have a lot of school kids up on Friday, and then the general public Saturday, Sunday. But they have Flintknappers. How many people know what an addle is? All right, I gotta know.
It's like a stick that you put like a dart on, and you go like this, and it throws it.
So what's the purpose?
To hit things, and like to throw it easier.
It's for hunting, and data will either confirm or deny, but I think it had to do when you had the concept of spear points, the longer, older points, rather than they say the modern bird points that the Senecas had when you had bows and arrows. It was almost pre-bow and arrow, but I'll let Dana fill in the blanks on that one. So you have addle competitions. Who's ever heard of that? Living history encampments, and some of my old Civil War buddies go up and set up camps. So if you want Civil War soldiers, rocks, gems, minerals, and fossils, and then you'll have collectors, certain archaeologists. Maybe he can do a little blurb on our friend Mike Gramley from Buffalo and some of the things. I met him. I've been up there to their event, not recently, but since COVID. But it's a wonderful, wonderful event. So without further ado, I'll introduce you to Dana Klein from Angelica, and all things Native American. So we're glad to have him, and we're glad to have Kay here too.
So I bet you're thinking, why is this fat old guy your guest and honor today? And first of all, I want to see who I'm talking to. Thank you for your input on the atlatl. That's nice to see. Did anyone else ever seen an atlatl before? Do we have any archaeologists here? Oh, good. That means I won't offend you too greatly. Do we have any guests from the Seneca or Iroquois Nation with us tonight? We do not. I have taught at the traditional school at Steenberg and reintroduced Flintknapping to some of their descendants. So, but why am I here? I'm not an archaeologist. I'm not an anthropologist. I'm a retired mailman, and I work for an aerospace company. The reason I am here is I fell down a rat hole 40 years ago of Flintknapping. So my dad took me out, we surface hunted, we found artifacts, and I wanted to know how to do it. And I pounded rocks, and I broke things, and I smashed beer bottles, full and empty. And I didn't successfully make an arrowhead. And then one day, Howard Howdy Lang from Belfast called me up, a fellow artifact collector, and said a guy is coming down and he's going to make an arrowhead. So Ken Wallace, who helped found our event, showed up and made an arrowhead. So for the next 40 years, I've been all over the country. I've been gathering rocks. I learned how to make arrowheads, but I did the same first year 10 years in a row. And then I went to the home of Dave Waldorf, who published The Art of Flintknapping, and actually learned how to do it. Now you have YouTube, TikTok, you can learn sitting in your basement. But back then we were a group of guys gathering around a circle of pickup trucks with a pile of rocks and maybe a malt beverage or two. So the reason I am here is because of the invite. We're advertised as New York State artifacts, but I'm going to take you on a little older journey. For one thing, everyone sitting here your ancestor was a flint napper in Europe and Africa and India and South America and China. It's something all humans did at one point in time. So it's a universal historic fact. Your ancestors were flint nappers. Some of them weren't real good at it. My Danish ancestors replicated Roman daggers that they got in trade. They couldn't afford bronze, so they made it out of rock. Truly advanced flint knapping. Some of our local Senecas who don't like to hear it were not that advanced. They didn't make huge bifacially reduced items. Part of the reason is they didn't have the material to do it. What they were working was Onondaga Church. We're going to pass this around. If you find an arrowhead anywhere around here, 80% chance it's made out of that material. I'm going to pass a bunch of stuff around. Just make sure it gets back in the file when we're done. So not for lack of skill or cultural affiliation, they didn't have the material to do it. A lot they were working was glacial cobbles. It had been frost fractured. That first piece came from Port Colborne, Ontario. Washes out on the beaches. The second piece is what you'll find in the creek, and they were making arrowheads out of that. So even though they're only this big, typical local point Seneca arrow would be a Madison point, would look like that. Those were arrow points. So they're not that old, 500-600 years. This is a traditional flint tip. It's actually Brazilian agate. But the reason I'm passing this around, that's a pretty traditional fletch of what you'd see in arrows. So our Seneca neighbors and friends were not the first people here. Early contact 1480, they were here when our ancestors came. They shoved the people before them mostly north and west and east. So while they are native here, they were not the first people. But who were the first people? It's a good question. We have Steve Howe, who we had mentioned, excavating the Galt site in Texas as we speak. It's 12,000 years old. It's a totally different flint knapping technology. So I'm going to show you the basics of flint knapping. What we have, this is a raw lump of rock. Let's hit that one first. So we want to make this flat and sharp. We have lots of tools. This is a piece of moose antler. So what I'm going to do, anybody ever shoot a window with a BB when they were a kid? You did. I know you did. Well, it makes a little Hertzian cone. When you're flint knapping, you're always working at a 120-degree angle. You shot a window too, didn't you? All of you too. No. So, if you notice, my angle of incidence is below the center of mass. We're trying to work to the center of mass. It's about 120-degree angle. It's a little heavier one. So I struck a platform along the edge, but into the center of mass to make that thinner and sharper. So you do a series of those and you end up with a biface. This is bifacially reduced, front and back. You might find these around here. They were traded. This is from Australia. You won't find any like this around here. If you do, it's not old. But they find flint here from Ohio, from Labrador, from the Hudson Valley. It was a trade good. It was very valuable to people who had glacial cobbles. They didn't carry big boulders. They carried these. So if you look in a lot of the museums, you'll see facial wear. Because they carried them in a basket. They carried them on their back. And you can't see it here. They also spark at night. It's kind of cool. So once we've taken a big lump, made it a little thinner, we send some flakes around. So back and forth, front to back. This is a biface that you could actually use. This is a knife, it has a center of mass, it has a sharp edge. You'll find cache blades where there'll be 30 of these buried. It's because they left them to come back to and never got back. The metalwood people were famous for it, cache blades. This is a piece of novaculite from Arkansas. We've got flint from Ohio. Ooh, that's pretty stuff.
Here.
Oh yeah, pass that around, Peg. So this is Ohio flint made into jewelry.
Oh.
That's a little.
Talk a little bit about, Rocky Mountains, Black Flint, and distinguished with Flint Ridge, and then the local chert. I mean, you showed the great chert, but just a little bit about, because all of it's traded here, and you see all kinds of arrowheads.
Jack Holland from the Buffalo Museum of Science, and I followed in his shadow all over the country. You can come up and take a look afterward. It's from Georgia, Arkansas, Texas, that's Australia, Ohio. The trade networks are strangely the same among the modern guys. I drove to Georgia in April to get this rock because it's pretty. It looks like caramel candy. So they found bits of obsidian here from Nevada and the West Coast. The Hopewell culture were huge traders, and they were here. They traded mica, they traded flint, they traded copper, long before highways and Route 90 was here. But it came slow. I mean, they're literally carrying it, or getting in their canoe and following the waterways. Here in the Allegheny watershed, just over at the summit in Friendship, it drains the other way and goes to the Genesee and the St. Lawrence. So a great convergence of water routes are right here. Some of the sites in Cuba were continuously occupied for 8,000 years. You can tell by the point types and the artifacts. But maybe they didn't live there all the time, but they went through there regularly. So who were the first peoples? Good question. I don't know, and I don't think anyone does. But I do know what they made. They made a very distinctive point type, a Clovis point. And what a Clovis point is,
You can tell that little
instead of
in
your
the bottom.
typical notched arrowhead, we'll send one of them around with it, had a very distinct base. It was indented, and it was basally thin with one distinct flake, both sides. The reason for that is they weren't arrowheads. They were atlatl tips, and they went on a foreshaft, or it could be bone.
What is this?
So it's incredibly
I mean,
difficult.
what type of
Yeah.
flint?
Oh, is that it?
Pass that around.
Not
too.
from around here, but
It's incredibly difficult to make a
Interesting.
straight shaft. This is river cane.
that's bone. I think that's bone.
It's not difficult to make a tip for it. So you make repeaters. The foreshaft was interchangeable. So when that hit the ground, because I missed the Pleistocene megafauna and broke the tip, I just pulled another one out and put it in. A lot of the bone artifacts that were here are long gone. The pH in our soil does not allow for preservation. But we do found Clovis points. And they were scattered, but you find them in association with the Pleistocene megafauna. The mammoth, the mastodon, mammoth found in Hinsdale, Hume, Randolph, they're everywhere. Sometimes they cover them up. They don't want them to be found, but they're there. So these are the hunters, but they're not hunting with your bow and arrow. They are hunting with your atlatl, as our young friend told us. So a stick with a hook, and a dart, and I think you got to be pretty brave to stick this into a 4,000-pound animal, but you can.
Nice.
Effective hunting weapon. We had a film crew in, and we hung up a car door, and we can punch holes in a car door with those. There are two reasons. As he mentioned, what your atlatl is doing is increasing the length of my arm. So I have 2.5 times the leverage of a hand-thrown spear. The other thing that's a little different with an atlatl dart, anybody bow hunt here? So what happens when you shoot an arrow? It's called the Boyer's paradox. It leaves going like this. It's totally different with a atlatl dart. So that atlatl and this is a harmonic system. When that leaves the tip, it's bent like that. And then it recovers and back. So at that range, 15, 20 meters, it's straight. So when you're hunting your woolly mammoth, you gotta be this close. I tell you, I don't know if I want to do that, but that's what they were doing with these points. So we're trying to figure out where these people come from. There's a very distinct style to this napkin, and it's not the base. This is a minor change from notches. What it is we got a good example, overshot percussion. So ultra passe, if you read Crabtree or the so you are removing a flake from here all the way to the other side.
How did they make the edges? Like you showed us the two different kinds. One had edges and one didn't.
When you get to this point, you set down your hammer. You pick up your deer antler tine or copper, and it's the same conchoidal fracture, much smaller. So you go around. That's why I'm not making you a point. It takes about 2 hours.
And what would be the advantages of each of the two types? Why would they want one over another?
So
Use them for different things.
yes, the larger ultra passe napkin like this, these are the Wenatchee points from East Wenatchee, Washington. It's very efficient flint removal. You're moving tremendous mass instead of going to the center line. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 flakes, you would flatten that whole side. Where this, like I was just showing you, would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Flip it over and do it again to get the same reduction. It's very quick, very efficient. It takes a little hand skill and a little practice.
That has to do with the making of them,
Yes.
correct? What's the uses of them?
So if I want to skin a deer, all I need to do is this. Because this will do it. So I'm going to pass around some of the big bifaces. I think were blade cores. From this one big piece of flint, I can make a scraper, I can make a point, I can make a backed knife for skinning very efficiently from one piece of flint. That is my Swiss Army knife that I carry with me, just one piece, and 2 tools to make it. So the people who came here making these, totally different flint knapping technique than indigenously in this area 8,000 years ago. Are they 2 different people? Did they come from different places? I don't know. But I do know where you find this technique. 2 other places in the world. The Iberian Peninsula, Spain and France, 15,000 years ago. And the Strelitskayan culture in central Russia, 30,000 years ago. I'm not a proponent of any migration theory. I have been to Alaska, and I've followed the braided glacial outflow rivers slogging through the tundra, and if I could get in my boat and hopscotch down the coast, I would have done it. So the ice-free Clovis First Corridor, sure they probably came through there, but I think they were here from other directions. I don't know who they were, but their flint-knapping technology is very similar to other cultures around the world. So as an example, Iberian Peninsula, they make laurel leaf blades. These are ultra passe, overshot percussion, very advanced. Their base was made to fit in a bone or wood system. The Clovis culture, ultra passe flint knapping, hazily thin, but these are the same blade, just with a different base technique. So this is what gets me thrown out of the Field Museum, and I am not saying they came from either of those places. I'm saying their flint knapping technology is exactly the same, and I can prove it to you. Now the other thing we miss artifactually is these big blades are kind of fun to make and brag about, but they are very inefficient. The most efficient form of flint technology is a blade core. So if I take one of these and make one arrowhead out of it, I get 6 inches of blade. If I take a blade core, this is an artifact blade core. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pass that around. So that same piece of flint, I now have with 4 flakes, 4 times the edge. What you are producing is edge. You don't care what it looks like. You don't care what color it is. You're going to bind it, grind it, and shove it in a mastodon. It doesn't matter what material it's made out of. So a couple of artifacts we miss around here. When you make a blade core, after you've run a series, the top gets, so you knock the top off and throw it away. There are tons of the tops of blade cores all in the fields here, and people don't pick them up because they don't look like an arrowhead. So a lot of the museums have allowed me to go in and go through their debitage and pull out the artifacts.
Did they use those for anything?
No,
No, that's why they were left on
Yep.
the ground. Okay.
you could, it's too labor intensive because it's all banged up for making the blades. The people who perfected blade core technology were the Mayans and Aztecs in South America. What these are blades and blade cores out of obsidian. These are big ones. And all they were doing, just putting a little serrated edge on it. They weren't making them flat or fancy. We'll pass those around. Wow.
Is it Belgium where they put the little
Yeah,
pieces in?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
So we talked about conservation of material. If you're in a flint core area and you need a lot of edge, you don't have a lot of rock. One thing you might have is bones from the previous animal you killed. So with your blade core technology, even with a tiny piece of rock, you can make a whole bunch of edge. And if you insert that into your bone, that is the tip for your rattle dart with a piece of rock that big. So in Europe and in North and South America, they use those extensively, but the bone does not survive. So you'll find a pile of little tiny flakes, but it could have been one of those. So that's kind of the basics of napping. A strange theory of where did these strange people come from, and a little bit of local history. And I'm going to open it up. Anybody, you've got great questions. What else you got?
not at the moment.
You good? How about you, my level friend? Anything you think of?
Oh, I know something that came to my mind.
When did you, she knew the answer because she does sword fighting.
Oh, yeah.
How does, you know, the transition, did they use both arrows and swords, or?
Interestingly, they used whatever they had materials for and worked. I've seen deer on a game farm killed with a rifle. That's all they had. There's a huge debate on when the bow and arrow. I'm not going to jump into an exact year, but clearly by 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, you had a bow and arrow. They were still using atlatls in South America when the Spaniards came. Very effective. The metal chest armor could be pierced by that dart. So Spaniards quaked in fear of an atlatl dart. Not for very long, but it would slow them up. So they still use them. Some of the Aleutian people hunt with them with their traditional hunts because they're bow hunting whales. So the leverage straight down is tremendous. Or they shoot them with high-powered rifles from helicopters. I've been up there. It's kind of horrible. But traditional hunt can mean a lot of things. Did that answer your question? Okay. Then I do want to thank Dave for inviting me over, and what a tremendous facility. And I got to tell you, when we came up, the landscaping here is beautiful. My God. But that's kind of all I got, unless you have questions.
A couple of years ago, I did a presentation on 3 or 4 cultures we know about here: Senecas, Eries, Alleghenies, and what do you know about the Alleghenies? I heard anything from Adena mound builders to Mormons to whatever, but you know.
Hard to say. So clearly, the Adena mound builders were here first. The Jack's Reef people buried their dead in the Adena mounds. They're totally distinct point types. Were they historic descendants using the history, or did they just reuse somebody else's culture? Hard to say. I think there were multiple migrations by multiple different people over thousands of years. And they were following the mammoth and the mastodon with the retreating ice. That's 4,000 pounds of meat. That is hugely valuable. And I think they hunted them to almost extinction. I mean, climate change impacted that. But I worked with John Schement digging mastodons. They were creatures of habit. They went to the same water hole. When you excavate, there will be a trail this deep. Generations of mastodon went to the same place. And they also pooped in the same place. And there's a very distinct smell to 12,000-year-old mastodon poop. The minute you hit it, you know you're on a mastodon site. You can still smell it. So, as an animal to hunt, they're sitting ducks. The mastodon were gone before the mammoth. The mammoth turn and come at you. The mammoth fight. The mastodon probably didn't. You know. Proboscidean elephants who were docile, and they are gone. There were mammoth off the west coast till 4,000 years ago. Miniature ones on islands, but I think we've been hunting them almost to extinction.
Another weird zinger for you on it.
Yeah.
Giants. You know, the giant Indians, as you enter the Cattaraugus County Museum, he saw giants uncovered, and they're all over the country, and the Smithsonian covered it up and all that. Talk a little bit about what you know about giants.
So giants, there were tall people, there were short people. It had to do with nutrition. If you hunted huge animals and had a lot of protein, you were taller than the people living on rabbits. Interestingly, the Wenatchee Glades in East Wenatchee, Washington, had rabbit blood on them. Not big animals. The blood was what they could get. But the whole, I call it the giant hoax. So if you have a prone burial and all the flesh decays. There's no coffin, there's no cement vault to putrefy it. They're just going into the earth. When you excavate that, the bones have moved away from each other. So if you put a tape measure on the farthest toe bone and go up to the cranial cap, it's 7 feet 8 inches tall. And the Smithsonian published the giants. And there's the 30-year-old women on TikTok believe they're still here. Hey, great, more power to them. I believe there's little scientific validity to the giant theory. But I'm just a retired mailman. Although I have archaeologically excavated a lot of skeletons.
Hey, Dave, you aren't going to ask him about expanding upon your ancient astronaut theory?
That's another night.
Yeah. Well, I've traveled with all of them. The Midwest Epigraphic Society, OGAM in the woods, ancient astronauts, cutting rock with lasers. I even flew out to see mutilated cattle in New Mexico. Sure looked like desiccated coyote killed to me, but I don't know. So
They carry their scalpels with them.
sure, yeah.
When would they have chosen to use atlatls or bows? Like what?
As soon as the technology hit their hand, they're both very efficient. A bow more so, and the minute you conquered someone with bows, you copied them. And there's no clear set date. They used what they had or copied.
Is it because it goes faster or more accurate, or?
It's less material to carry.
Ah.
So if I'm running through the woods with this, they hear me coming. If I have this across my chest, it's in an overgrowth forest. It's quick and way less material. This is viburnum, grows everywhere around here. It's called arrowwood because you could make arrows on it.
I fought somebody using an atlatl with a bow, and I would have thought that they would have wanted to use the atlatl.
Yeah.
It goes farther.
I think the key, and now we're getting into warfare. Humans are warlike creatures, obviously, for thousands of years. Stealth is the key to warfare. You can hide better with a bow and arrow than a 6-foot-long dart.
What's that behind you? Is that the giant cane behind you, or?
No, that's a stick I bring to hang my hat on. And it looks cool.
It does.
It's a vine stick with a piece of amethyst in it. But meet your expectations. You want more or less?
More?
Very good.
Well,
Anything, or talk about up in Letchworth, or anything unusual, whatever.
oh well, the Stone Tool Show at Letchworth. We're actually a non-profit organization. The New York Atlatl Association meets jointly with us. If you want to throw atlatls, they'll have targets, tools you can borrow, and they'll teach you how to do it safely. We all literally started from Howdy Lang's backyard. Turned into, hey, we should get together. We met in people's backyards, but you got 200 people in the backyard, the neighbors complaining about. So we went to Cast Isle Village Park. I can't tell you the year, 90s. And then we outgrew that, and we partnered with Letchworth. Or they allowed us to be there, or we invaded. Hard to say. But it is kind of fun to go to a bureaucrat in the state park system and say, we'd like to throw atlatl darts. Oh my. It's quite a journey to get that actually allowed. So we do it safely. We rope it off. We have monitors. Humans are stupid creatures. The Geneseo cross-country team ran through a live fire atlatl range. during the meeting. Knock the police tape down to do it. That's what they did. So you can never predict human behavior.
And it doesn't take strength to throw an atlatl.
No, it's technique and leverage and practice. The lovely Kay was ranked top 10 in the world among women during our journey.
Mm-hmm. I could throw a dart to a tribal.
Yep.
Nice.
So, and I'm definitely not strong or young.
But I'm also very nice to her. She's a pretty good shot with that.
Well, I've got a police scanner. I can't wait to hear when the dispatcher calls one of the cars saying, hey, there's a reported person carrying an atlatl down the street.
Kids chase some kids, knock on the door and run away. Had an atlatl by the door, and I chased them down the street. They never came back.
It was hard at the airport to explain the stone tools.
I have had trouble at airports. When you carry a toolbox full of copper bars, good pieces of bone, and rocks, I found it's better to call ahead and make an appointment. It can be tricky, but once you explain it to them, you can. A lot of this I have had on airplanes. The darts pretty well got to go up. They won't let them go up. And the other thing I found, I was out in St. Louis, and Washington University asked me to talk.
My dad works.
So I took the
Her
train
dad works at
and I brought all this and I gave it to him because it's way easier than getting it back on the train. They were going a little crazy about it.
So what did you do at Washington with it? Or you had a presentation like this? Or
Similar, they were more interested in atlatls, the fletching, the flex mechanics. So I had a whole bunch of darts, but they were really a problem to travel. I just gave them to them because I didn't want to bring them home. And I got invited to there because I was working in St. Louis, but on the weekends I was going and getting kale and chert, and I ran into a group from Washington University who asked me to give a presentation. Much like running into Mr. Hornberg anyway.
Could you talk about some of the different kinds of people you interact with? Was it Mickey Taylor, Gramley, different kinds of people and their background and how you interact with them and
Sure.
the little slice of life of these people?
So one thing you'll see at our Stone Tool Show, we'll have Dr. Mike Gramley, the world's paleo authority, the Val site, all kinds of paleo excavation. And much unlike a lot of archaeologists, he publishes everything he does.
That Hinsdale sheet is Gramley from Buffalo.
Who published it way out here. So, and then you have bikers and reenactors and farmers who find things and just want to know. At the Stone Tool Show, there's a great, almost communal group of people who just like rocks, wood, and dirt. And it's such an odd thing to do. If anyone has any interest, people are glad to say, come on in, we'll show you how to do it. So it's truly eclectic.
I guess any advice? We're going to be at Ghost Ranch in New Mexico this summer
Oh.
and visiting the paleontology site. Any
Nice.
advice for us or what we should ask about or want to look at?
Go off-site and find the locals and walk the old outwashers. They'll be bone dry, but when they're full, that's where it washes the artifacts out. But of course, on a national site, you shouldn't pick anything
Right.
up.
You ever dug dinosaurs with Vince Martonis out west or anything?
I have not. No.
He has, and he's slowing down a little bit, but
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. I'd love to be out there and doing that.
Little too young rock. There's no Flynn in there. So I
Yeah,
don't care about that.
right. Right, I get it.
Schwartz, from Florida. He dives in the rivers.
In Florida. So Florida, 12,000 years ago, all the water's tied up in the ice. There was a whole lot more of Florida. When they dredge off the coast, they bring up all kinds of artifacts. So the scuba divers off the coast and in the rivers find tons of artifacts, cave networks. And, it's strange means you find 12,000-year-old artifacts 1,000 miles away from the first people sites in Clovis. So I don't know. Maybe they came from the Iberian Peninsula. I don't know. Though I have looked down there, Grand Pressony flint from France is very distinctive and easy to identify. And I'm hoping to find an artifact in Florida or Maryland made out of that, and I never have. That doesn't mean they're not there, I just haven't found them.
Okay, now it's mound builder time.
Okay?
There are mounds in Olean and everywhere around here, and you look in the books, and there are county histories, 300 or 400 mounds, and supposedly the Hopewell came up here, and the question how they ended and fused and battled and all that. But the one you were just telling me about, tell everybody about that one and a little bit about the mounds around here.
There are mounds everywhere, and I think you have one in Lincoln Park that they put a cemetery on. If you look at it from the air, that was already there. You can spot them from the air. A lot of them have been plowed flat. There is an intact mound trenched by William Ritchie in 1962 on County Route 20 between Cuba and Friendship. It's never been excavated. It is in private hands, and they are preserving it. So they're everywhere.
Where is it exactly? I do that every week and never see it. I don't care to dig it, but
The second dead-end road past the summit.
This time of year, because of
Because of
the
the
trees
leaves.
and bushes. You can't
Next time
really
you're
see
over,
very
I'll
well.
drive you over.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
She'll come out and accost us as we drive in. But it's
I'm not doing that. I'm just curious. That's all.
But the Hopewell extensively through Ohio, Erie, all the way up through the Finger Lakes, and they built mounds. They used burial mounds. They were ceremonial use. The Newark Ring in Ohio, probably a defensive structure, but the same people who see giants and space creatures got all kinds of ceremony that usually is utilitarian. If you look back to all the archaeologists, if they don't know what it is, it's ceremonial because they don't know what it is. So, bird stones are a classic example of that. I have no idea what those are for. Possibly an atlatl weight. The reason you would put a weight on an atlatl is to balance the harmonic system. When I have this dart on an atlatl, it is tip heavy. If you put a stone weight here, it balances the weight of that. There is a magic point. You got to move them up and back. But banner stones sticking out to hit you in the head were not on an atlatl. So I don't happen to have one.
How do you balance a bird stone in that setup?
I don't think you do. So if you look at the holes in a bird stone, they are going the other direction. They're more possible as a handle to a box, a basket. Some of them show wear from leather or some other kind of cordage through the hole. I don't think they were on an atlatl. I've tried them. The only thing that matters is how much it weighs and how far you move it. Some of the bar stones clearly are atlatl weights. They're perfect. Banner stones, totally different animal. That's another lecture. What they were your electric drill. If you want to sand smooth the shaft, you have to spin it. So if you have your bow drill, you can spin it, but this is so lightweight it moves. If you drop a banner stone on there, it totally levels it out, so you can sand your shaft. And shafts were very hard to make. 4 shafts and tips were not. So I think banner stones were part of a toolkit. And the reason archaeologically they think they were with an atlatl, if Dana drops dead here and you bury him in this Adena mound, you're going to put his toolkit with him. And it's going to be his banner stone, his atlatl, and his dart. But all the wood and stuff is going to be gone. So you have an atlatl tip, you have a dart tip, and you have a banner stone. When you dig it out of the ground, you think they go together, only in the sense that they were a toolkit. but that gets me thrown out of the field museum in Chicago also.
Probably a big variety or range in terms. But what would an effective range for one of those things be? I mean,
So,
probably not 100 yards, but
not smartly, but you could, just if you were lucky. When I've been on replica hunts on game farms with these, and then down south on real hunts, and your effective killing range is 15 to 20 yards.
okay.
But what I believe they were also doing with Pleistocene megafauna is group hunting. They were putting 30 darts in an animal simultaneously and then tracking. And then we did blanket studies. The flint tips make a difference. If you hang up a blanket and shoot an arrow through it, your modern broadhead with surgical steel will go through 3. A flint tip will go through 4. An atlatl dart with a flint tip, because of its more mass, will go through 6. And then modern hunting is actually cruel and brutal. With broadheads, you are shooting through the animal and bleeding it out, and you are tracking it. And then you are humanely coup de grace, you take that meat home. And I have nothing against meat. Atlatls do something that's really interesting. If we stick 10 of these into some animal, he's going to run away from us. But these are sticking out. He's running through the forest. And this is in his lung, and the first branch he hits, it hits his aorta, and the second one is liver, and they don't run as far because the dart stays in them. Totally different concept in modern hunting.
Now you mentioned on game farms and stuff, so there are people that actually use something like that
Oh, sure.
for hunting
Yeah, we
deer?
hunted fallow deer with them.
Okay. In New York State, if I wanted to hunt with a bow and arrow, I have to get a bow license, a hunting.
You do.
Yeah.
New York currently only allows atlatl hunting in that last week of throw a stick at it, crossbow. They've finally relented after 40 years. Georgia, you can just hunt with them here in bow season. When I was actively killing with them, it was on a game farm, which is totally fine. Missouri, you can hunt with an atlatl. I'd have to look it up, but it is being recognized as an effective weapon. Dealing with the DEC of New York is a multi-headed hydra of almost impossibility.
Don't get us going on that.
And that'll get me some good Facebook comments.
Accuracy, 10 to 20 meters.
Yeah, the World Atlatl Association has a standard accuracy contest. It is 10 to 6. It's very similar to rifle competition, and it is 5 darts from 15 meters and 5 from 20. The world record, no one has ever hit 100. It's currently 98. So that tells you that's your range of effectiveness.
Okay, good.
You want to go hunt with one? We can do a fallow deer if you want.
When I was like this, I remember my father showing me something, but now it was not one of those exactly, but they'd take a shingle, a roof shingle, which is thick on the front and thin, and they'd whittle it down so that it was like a feather on the back of it and a point on the front.
Yeah.
Cut a little notch in it, and then with just a string on that, I think hunt rabbits with it or something like that.
And
but
the
it was
Romans
same-
did that with the leather tie. It's the same technology, lengthening the length of your arm and increasing your angular momentum as it moves. The other thing I used to do is put an apple on a stick. I could hit my sister at 40 yards. Anything else, Dave?
You got anything unusual laying on the ground like that stone over there and a few other things to show before you close
We
up?
got all kinds of. Oh, hey,
We love it.
boy! Before I offend anyone, do we have any Mormons here? Okay, So Joseph Smith and Palmyra and the burned over region, we have more religions formed in this area than anywhere on the planet. One of their traditions is a seer stone to read the golden plates brought by the angel Moroni. It looks remarkably like an Adina two-hole gorget, but I'm not Mormon, I don't know. And what these were is body adornment. These serve no functional purpose.
I got some
What
of those.
else we got? Oh, well, this is we have lots of different tools. We have sharp, pointy things for killing things, but sometimes we wanted to make a canoe or a bowl for our wife to prepare food from, or our husband, or he, she, they, other, I'm not judging. But that was a different technology. If we're going to take Teddy Roosevelt wood and make bowls, we need different tools. This is porphyry. It's a very hard stone. Totally different technique of making tools out of this. You take a big rock and you peck it with a piece of quartzite, something harder, to remove surface, and then you grind it on a rock. A lot of the mortars around here aren't mortars. They were for grinding tools. This came from Friendship, New York. This is Adina. It's actually ancient, but somebody took it and went like that on a grinder to sharpen it. I wouldn't have done that, but that's how I acquired it. That is a woodworking tool. It's very similar to woodworking tools all over the planet. This is from northern Africa. What they did is took a piece of flint. This happens to be an agate, but they bifacially reduced it like we talked about, but then they ground a tip on it to make an axe because they don't have porphyry. They use the materials they have. This is 30,000 years old. The first one going around is 4,000. So until the advent of copper smelting and steel, stone was what you made tools out of, or bone, or ivory. And this is just kind of cool. It's a water buffalo horn. I have no idea, but we can pass that around. But you can make tips for your atlatl with horn, a piece of wood. You can just coil the string around it like you said. Literally, there's a guy in Michigan who would come to the event. He brought his darts, but he went in the woods and cut a stick out of the tree to compete with, because he rode a motorcycle. He would break down darts. When you're hungry, you get creative.
So again, what about that stone?
Oh, well,
That, I'll just keep prodding you till you can't
yeah,
stand it.
buddy.
Yeah.
If you haven't noticed, I'm a shy, quiet child.
Yeah. Oh.
So this is an illustration of the Hertzian cone that I talked about. This is a round cobble of flint from Indiana. It's Indiana hornstone. It's a high quality flint. They traded it all the way out here. In order to get a round rock into a flat thing, somehow you've got to get into that. Well, you do that with the Hertzian cone. It's a classic Hertzian cone. So from here you could make a blade core this way, or start here and go this way and make one center cut to make one big blade. I think they did both. They're not going to waste that beautiful piece of rock. But that's why that one comes along. Boy, it doesn't get any better than that. Then the other thing we don't find archaeologically, because you can't, is cordage. This is just cordage, hand braided and twisted. So cordage and nets. The easiest thing on the planet to catch is fish, but you need a net. So you need fiber to twist into cordage. And kids, women, men, anyone can do cordage. Very important to their toolkit, but it doesn't survive burial in the ground. I think I'm out of toys, Dave.
What material do they use for cordage?
What's that?
What's the material for cordage?
You can pound basswood to get fiber. You can use smaller fibers. What do I grow in the yard?
Oh, you mean milkweed?
No,
No,
we
it's-
grow one. Anyway,
Yep, can't think of it.
the bark from lots of trees and plants makes fine cordage, or wool from a mammoth or mastodon. Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't put any in my pocket.
Well, hey.
Well, your knowledge is astounding.
Yeah.
Let's give him a hand.
Very good.
Things you'll never hear anywhere else unless you go up to his conference and see what's going on up here and throw an atlatl or something. But thank you both for coming, and everybody's got a little piece, and their piece is good.
Yeah.
Stretched out.
Anybody have an arrowhead in their pocket? I'll tell you where it came from. Well, I was hoping. Thank you.